So, 4 officers facing charges over George Floyd's death. Like, subscribe, ID in the Discovery Channel. Yes, ID in the Discovery Channel. The links are provided below. Get that Discovery Go app as well as that ID Go app. You might want to get those two things, combine them, make them into one. And I'm a Discovery influencer. That's indeed a fact. So, 4 officers facing charges in the death of George Floyd. They were arrested, as we know. Those officers go by the names of Derek Chauvin, Tutayo. I'm improperly saying his name. Let me get his name right. Let me just say Tuo. J. Alexander Kung and Thomas Lane. Each once again faces charges in the death of George Floyd. The faces are above my head. The officers were taken into custody on June 3rd, 2020 as officers J. Alexander, him and Theo, right? And Thomas Lane facing charges of felony, aiding and abetting the second-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter. Derek Chauvin was the officer who could be seen on video causing the death of George Floyd. Yes, the officer's knee, as the world seen, right? We all witnessed that, right? Causing the death of George Floyd. The officer's knee was on Floyd's neck. So that officer had been charged with 3rd-degree murder and 2nd-degree murder. That's with negligence. Each officer involved may be facing 40 years in prison for 2nd-degree murder charges. That's each officer. That's not 40 years combined. Each officer may indeed be facing 40 years, right, for what occurred. 2nd-degree murder charges. Minnesota Attorney General stated justice will be served. It will be, yes, sought and served for George Floyd's death, right? I feel all lives matter with that sort of thing, as in everybody across the globe matters. When they're screaming, I can understand I'm brown skinned. Some people might feel, well, yeah, you should scream more for people of your brown skin and more so than other. I feel like with anybody that's killed, remember, people are tragically killed every single day. So justice should be served for all lives and not just say people of my skin tone that's black. And I said this how many times, there's when it comes to Black Lives Matter, I can understand that sort of thing as in the movement itself. But remember, there's missing black kids. I said this in another video. There's black missing kids that go missing. Black Lives Matter is nowhere to be found, screaming and yelling and tearing down things. Some people feel it was just the looters. They feel, well, it was peaceful protesters and there was, looters over there. They're all one and the same once they scream Black Lives Matter. That's just the way it goes, right? To all scream and chant the same thing is now to say we all become one. And even Black Lives Matter, the movement, know that sort of thing. We all become one once we scream Black Lives Matter. But there's black children that indeed get killed by drunk drivers, right? Black Lives Matter is nowhere to be found screaming. There's in fact children. There was a 3-year-old that got killed, yes, by a drunk driver, and Black Lives Matter was nowhere to be found. I need them to in fact scream, because if they're not screaming for black missing kids and they're not screaming for black kids or black individuals that get struck and killed by drunk drivers, that's to say they're not for all black lives. It helps to pay attention, as in have some sensibility and know and understand that Black Lives Matter is not representing all of us black people. Do you know on average how many black people in fact die on a day-to-day basis, and Black Lives Matter is nowhere to be found screaming and yelling? every day there, because somebody I was having a conversation with online, I'm gonna try and keep it short, but I said, we have, let me see, I said the children about the DUI. I said black missing children, drunk drivers killing people, black individuals, right? What else? You have black people who are killed, whether it's purposely or by accident, by surgeons during surgeries. Black people laying on the table getting surgery, whether it's white hands touching them doing the surgery or black hands touching them doing the surgery. Black Lives Matter is nowhere screaming and hooping and hollering. I know an individual right now to this day who their mother in fact died, yes, on the operating table by a doctor that was not black. And Black Lives Matter was nowhere screaming and shouting and hooping and hollering and helping whoever, and these protesters and these looters or whatever, burning down things pertaining to that. That's foolish activity. There's all type of, every single day, calculate how many lives are taken on the end of black people where you never hear and see Black Lives Matter. So if that's the case, that's for me to stand and say that all lives matter. That's just the way that it is, because if Black Lives Matter is not representing me, either you or I could get shot and dead by anybody. Black Lives Matter more than likely is not going to show up. Do you know how many blacks in fact stand on this earth, as in the world, and Black Lives Matter? Sit down one day, dear viewer, and calculate that on your end. How many people in your family have died tragically? Whether it was drive-by shooting, whether it was just somebody struck and killed them, any type of way, black on your own end. Calculate that sort of thing. Black Lives Matter showing up, screaming and hollering, burning down stuff. They're never nowhere to be found. You see what I'm saying? That's why it helps to go with all lives matter and not just Black Lives Matter. May George Floyd rest in peace, but he goes in with all lives as well, as all lives matter, not just Black Lives Matter. It just doesn't work on my own. And Discovery feels different pertaining to the corporation itself, feeling that Black Lives Matter, but I think that Discovery should say all lives matter. Because if I'm brown and I have family members, cousins, and people from my past that have been killed, and Black Lives Matter has not been screaming anywhere. I know people that have been tragically killed in the worst way that you can be killed, as in execution style. And Black Lives Matter, as in there was even a TV show made about one individual I know. Yes, personally, there was no Black Lives Matter screaming for them and burning stuff down. Once again, for the 10th time, there's a lot of black people that die all type of ways. And not only that, Michael Jackson himself, pertaining to him being dead, and the two boys that came out saying, well, he is guilty of this or that. That's in fact a lie of them saying he molested them. Black Lives Matter should have been the first movement showing up for even Michael Jackson. Remember, it's not blacks that is still accusing Michael. It's others, races of people that accuse Michael Jackson, even in his death. So where's Black Lives Matter in that? Remember, despite Michael having a skin disease and his skin being lighter as a black person, he still was black. Remember, black comes in all shades and not just dark black. And yet you don't see Black Lives Matter even in 2020 screaming for Michael Jackson, and yet he's still being accused by individuals in 2020. You see what I'm saying with this? They don't represent all of us. So, and also Kobe Bryant died in that plane crash. It was not a black man flying the plane. It was another individual of another skin tone flying the plane. But Black Lives Matter, they'll say, rest in peace, Kobe, but they weren't out there screaming for Kobe Bryant. Remember, that's a plane crash, whether it was accident or purpose or anything else. I'm just saying, nobody knows the intention of anybody that's involved in these situations before people die. People don't know what's on people's mind before a plane goes and crashes. It might appear as an accident, but maybe it could have been more than an accident. But Black Lives Matter didn't scream and yell and chant and burn down things and all the rest with these looters and protesters burning down things. They didn't do anything for Kobe Bryant. But let's say rest in peace, Kobe Bryant, right? And yet he died. You got to look into the full scope of what stuff is and not just be looking past stuff. Some people look at it, they look at the surface. That's called shallow people. A surface individual would just look at something that's there and just say, well, Black Lives Matter is for all black people. No, they're not. Because see, even in the black homes, black communities, there's kids that get killed even by their own parents, and Black Lives Matter is nowhere to be found. People, that's what shallow people do. They say, well, Black Lives Matter is for everybody, and they're really for George Floyd. Yeah, they're for him, but they more than likely won't be for you if you're black and something happens on your own and your mother, father, brother, sister, cousin, or somebody else die. You won't see them showing up. So once again, George Floyd, may he rest in peace. I do, in fact, support the officers being charged, right? But I feel like if these organizations get out here screaming and chanting, they should be screaming and chanting for more things than just police brutality or police violence on black people. As in, if you're going to represent all black people, do it as a whole. Remember, it's black people, poor black people of kinds that can't afford all type of things, and nowhere do you see Black Lives Matter screaming, chanting along with these protesters and these looters burning down stuff. It's poor people that are going without every single day, pertaining to needing more rights in the world, and more so than just police brutality is what I'm trying to say, as in correcting it. There's all types. What do poor people need? Poor people need to ask themselves, what do they go without every single day that Black Lives Matter need to be providing for them and to them as an organization. Remember, Black Lives Matter is indeed funded. So to know that they're funded is to say fund to the people, as in the black poor people. And don't just fight for police brutality as in going against it. Fight for stuff that black poor people need, as in black poor people need to open their eyes and be able to see into things for what it is, as in just what I said. Black Lives Matter is not taking care of all of business for all black people. Because if they was, a lot of these poor black people wouldn't be poor black to begin with. They will be given rights of all kinds that they need pertaining to even that. Because notice once again, Black Lives Matter don't handle the whole scope of things. They just handle police brutality that paints a perfect picture of them not fully caring for all black people. Because if they did whatever poor black people need, as in schools, remember, it's all type of states, cities, states, and all the rest that have poorly fashioned schools pertaining to the schools in itself, as in the education level is degraded or downgraded pertaining to blacks needing the proper education, young black school kids that need it, and you don't see Black Lives Matter running around hooping, hollering, screaming, and burning down stuff. You got poor black people that need proper medical care, and nowhere's Black Lives Matter hooping and hollering, screaming, and getting the proper medical care that poor blacks need. You see what I'm going with this? That shows right what I just said. Some people is not even alive enough, woke enough, even while being alive, to see what I just said. Poor black kids need proper education, and I don't see Black Lives Matter going anywhere to screaming and yelling and chanting, even with the medical care, needing medical care. What was that movie? Was it John Q? When that little boy, was it John Q, pertaining to the little boy needed medical or surgery or whatnot? I think it was John Q. Denzel Washington played the part. His son needed medical insurance. That's a likely everyday occurrence in poor black neighborhoods, and yet you don't see Black Lives Matter fighting for that sort of thing, or even the looters that go along with them screaming Black Lives Matter. You don't see those people burning down and fighting and burning down buildings for that type of stuff. It shows you how much they care, and I want to call it out. They don't. They only care when officers shoot and kill somebody brown like me, because many of these people that are black are racist to begin with. You just don't know. They're racist, bitter, hold a lot of animosity because they can't get ahead in life and do better in life, and they just use George Floyd as something to go burn and yell and scream, whatever, and all the rest. That's not saying all Black Lives Matter, the movement, did that sort of thing. But to have these looters come along and these other protesters come along, because remember, to start a movement is to have other people join you in it. That's the point in the movement. We're going to start a movement. We're going to have other people join in with us. And now those people that are destroying things are representing us. That's exactly how it goes. Once a movement gets started, that's the point of the movement. You start a movement to have all type of people join in, whether it's other protesters, looters, and all the rest. And once they join in, now you're all one. And so now it makes Black Lives Matter look bad as an organization once people get to burning down, terrorizing, and tearing up stuff, burning businesses. So smart people, when it comes to trying to change things such as them, instead, you go to Congress. You don't scream and march in the street. Remember, it's not the days and age of Martin Luther King. Those days is over with. Smart people go to Congress. Smart people go to Congress to change laws at Congress, and not by screaming in the streets. No smart individual such as myself or anybody else will ever be found screaming or hollering and chanting and looting and all the rest, because even Martin Luther King himself went to Congress. He went to Congress while he was alive, despite them protesting, boycotting and all the rest during his day and age. Remember, back then it was needed, because blacks couldn't go anywhere and do anything. Back then it was needed. These days the floodgates have been open for black people to be able to go and be here and be there. You see what I'm saying? These day and age, we living in an information age where you go straight to Congress to change laws. Not only that, if you're black, male, female, and all the rest, you don't go up against police officers and fighting and all the rest pertaining to wanting to change a law in relation to a George Floyd. You become a attorney, and you also, yes, go to Congress. As in, get some education about you and become an attorney so that you can protect your own people. You don't go out in the street screaming, fighting and rioting and all the rest, protesting and looting to protect black people. No, you become an attorney or become attorneys. That's what smart people do. They become attorneys to represent and stand in the courtroom wherever and represent their own, even if it's a wrongful death after the death has occurred. Yeah. And there's even black attorneys here that exist with that sort of thing, as in them getting involved, or probably would want to get involved with that sort of thing. But it shows the level of even Black Lives Matter, as in their mindset capabilities, the thinking capabilities is not fully there, because anybody with any awareness or anything will go to attorneys, as in groups of black attorneys, and work alongside with them pertaining to Congress and working on something to change whatever pertaining to George Floyd's death, because burning down buildings just don't do it. It just don't happen, right? Looting and all the rest. Trust and believe Black Lives Matter movement, there had to be protesters. They say peaceful. Not all those people was indeed peaceful. Because to be black anyways and be black and racist and want to take something out as to say you're gonna more than likely join the looters and that sort of thing. Don't let that people fool you with that. I know on my own end what's what and why. Even pertaining to the Black Lives Matter movement, as in the organization is an elite group. Because if they wasn't elite, they will be doing all type of things in which I mentioned for poor people. If Black Lives Matter wasn't an elite group, they will be providing all type of services, even meals. Black Lives Matter is not nowhere rolling around in buses providing free handout meals to black children, as in lunch in the summertime and all the rest. Does any people not see that? Who in their right mind don't see what I'm saying? Black Lives Matter should be out here making sandwiches, having potato chips and drinks and all the rest, like they used to do back in the 90s. Not Black Lives Matter movement used to do that sort of thing. But in poor neighborhoods, there was all type of trucks, depending on where you lived, that handed out free lunches and all the rest to people that was poor to their kids. If their mother and father couldn't provide certain things, they would give them free, like cookies, uh whatever, like lunch meals type of stuff, as prepared sandwiches, salad and all the rest, right? A carton of milk, right? Black Lives Matter don't do that type of stuff. And yet back in Martin Luther King day and age, they used to do that. They used to cook and all the rest and hand food out. It shows you how much Black Lives Matter care. Because if they're not feeding the poor people in ways that I said pertaining to that sort of thing, it helps to even realize, don't be blind. I come from the hood. I lived in 3 different hood environments enough to know that even I was one of those kids that was getting free meals when I was a kid, getting sandwiches that somebody had made. It was some type of group, but it wasn't like a group that fought racism or anything like that. It was just some type of group. I don't know if it was where I was staying at that they put whatever together, but all I know is this truck used to come out. It was like a chuck wagon, but it wasn't, because it had more than meats. And they used to give us sandwiches, handmade sandwiches, chips, a carton of milk, and a cookie. Stuff like that. I don't see Black Lives Matter doing all that type of stuff, as in they need to do more. Because to not do more is to say you don't represent poor people. You're an elite group that forgot about all black poor people. You just did. As in, don't just show up when you say, well, one of ours died by police. Yeah, but you're not providing nothing else, right? So looting, in fact, let me see. No business. When it comes to the looting aspect, looting is in fact for stupid people. It just is, because no business individual, no business person, no entrepreneur is going to go anywhere and burn down another business establishment of another business owner, knowing that such behaviors has an effect on everyone involved. It ruins neighborhoods. It ruins the neighborhoods, and not only that, it leaves so many people without jobs. That's an issue in itself. It leads to nothing being left, as in nobody wanting to own and start a business, which is why some businesses in fact pack up. Businesses in fact leave places like that, neighborhoods and all the rest, poor neighborhoods and everywhere else. Once stuff like that occurred, people looting and tearing down stuff, they don't no longer want to be bothered with you, right? That's why some immigrants too have the demeanor that they do, and not wanting to be bothered with some black people because of what even they see before they step off a boat and get here and get in the country. The things that they see on the news, how black people do stuff, tear down stuff, murder stuff, destroy stuff, is why some of them in fact come to America in the first place with the attitude that they do, doing business in the hood and doing business in poor areas. That's why some of them Asians have the attitude that they do. They don't know at what time is a black person going to destroy the property of their business, right? That's why some of these Arabs too have the attitude that they do, acting and feeling like they don't really want to do business with people of black skin color, because some black people do in fact be tearing and messing up business in the hood. I'm saying, walking out with drinks, don't pay for the drink, walk right past the Arab or the Asian and take the drink and walk right out and don't even pay for it. That will make either one of them business owners look at you in disgust, right? Some of them can be racist, the Asian or the Arabs, but it's not always the thing. It's the fact that they deal with, remember, I lived in the hood of all places, right? I seen a riot my own self with my own 2 eyes, where a riot occurred and all the blacks around me flipped over the news channel vehicle over on his head, burning and destroying stuff, right? I done seen all that you can see. So I know all sides of who is doing what, who's being racist and what reason and what response, as in how people respond, as in why they respond the way that they respond, right? Because I done lived in hood environments. I done survived even drive-bys. Being in a store in a drive-by. 2 guys fighting between each other, drive-by, and I'm standing there in the center of the drive. I done lived through all type of environments with that. So, as in knowing, when a drive-by happened, Black Lives Matter should be the first one there in response as well. Because even babies get killed with that sort of thing, but they're never nowhere to be found. Let me see. Looting goes against wanting change. When it comes to the Black Lives Matter movement, the peaceful protesters over here and then the looters over here and all the tearing up, the looting in fact goes against blacks wanting change or gaining change. And this is why looting destroys getting the change the very people want. Because all over the news, it can be seen by all people globally of all races and all the rest, right? Nationalities, whatever, right? All over the news can be seen looters, protesters, and all the rest ruining property everywhere. All on the news, right? Politicians sit and watch that sort of thing. Everybody sit and watch yes, the burning down of buildings and destruction of buildings. And they're not just gonna say, well, those are looters or those are protesters. No, they're gonna say that's all Black Lives Matter movement. Because once again, to start a movement is to have more people join in. That's the point of starting a movement to begin with. Black Lives Matter start the movement to have more people join in, despite them saying that they are a peaceful protesters, right? They start the movement to have more people join in, and those that join in oftentimes are looters and all the rest, right? And so you got politicians that sit back and watch these looters tear up property, right? The very people blacks want to change things, those people sit and watch the news as the looting is occurring, right? They're not gonna want to change anything. Because see, to loot and all and tear up and all the rest, some people might feel, well, yeah, it wasn't just black people involved. But black people want change, and every time I look at a screen, I was seeing black people steal shoes or steal cars and all the rest, right? Politicians sit back and watch that. All type of people that hold power, they sit back and watch those sort of people do that sort of thing, break glass to get into a building to steal all type of stuff. Ray-Bans was stole. What does sunglasses have to do with a black man being killed by police, right? People sit back and watch that and they say, well, black people, they just tear up everything. They're not well deserving of anything needing to be changed, such as laws or any type of violence needing to end, because they're violent themselves. That's how people that are not black, that's how they view black people. They sit and they'll watch the news and see all this looting and destruction going down. Remember, it wasn't just white people that got their businesses burnt down by looters and protesters and rioters and all the rest in between, but black people as well. Many people sat and watched the Rodney King, remember the LA riots or whatever, way back then. That video is still right here on YouTube. Many people watched that black man cry. I think he had on a yellow shirt. He looked like he was like in his 70s. He stood crying and said, why did you have to destroy my business? I tried so hard to make it. Why did you? He was a black man, older black man. They burnt his building or destroyed everything, his building. Not only that, during that time period, or was that recent? There was a old black man that owned I think it was called Old Fashioned Donuts in Chicago. He owns a donut joint, and black people in fact tried to burn it down, right? Destroy whatever when it comes to the donut shop owned by that old black man. Respect should be given to them because many of them have worked so hard. Consider their age, 70 years old, 80 years old, running a donut shop. And you see him black and you say, well, he just white as the white man. Let me go. Because many blacks indeed feel that way. That's why you do have black people that do burn down and ruin other black businesses, and black people don't know why. The reason is why I just said, because they feel like, well, we just want to ruin everything, right? But you do have black people that purposely burn down other black people's businesses because they feel that black business owner is just as white as the white man because he's a business owner. They feel that business means white. As if a black person can't own a business and be thinking like other black people. That black business owner might support Black Lives Matter just as much as you, and yet you wouldn't even know because you didn't take the time to learn and see, because you burned down his business. And now he's crying on TV, screaming and going off at you to make it seem like he's against you, like as if a white man or somebody will be against you because you're black that burned down his business. And yet he might in fact agree with you on that, but now he no longer holds respect because remember, he's black and you burned down his business, and yet you look like him. That was two individuals, old black men, that I seen that happen. Them on TV camera, the one black man crying, and then the guy, old black man with the donut shop, them trying to get at those two people, right? And then you had the black firefighter, which GoFundMe people was raising money for him because he started the business, didn't really get a chance to open the business, get on his feet with the business, despite him being a firefighter. His business was brand new and they burned it to the ground where nothing was left, right? And he was crying. Politicians, people in power, as well as those that run the law, that people feel like, well, George Floyd got killed by police. We need laws and all the rest to change, and we need police brutality. Once again, those people, those key holders and the people in power are going to look at these black business owners, just like the people I named, that firefighter, that they burned down his business, just like the old-fashioned donut shop owner, that black man, as well as during the LA riots when that other black man got his business and he was crying on camera. People in power and position look at those black people and say, well, you know what? They don't even respect their own kind, burning down even his building, and he was black. Like all three of them men was black, and they ain't the only one. I seen another video where it was a black male and he had on glasses or whatever, and he's trying to do an interview, and looters and rioters and all the rest is walking out his building establishment, his place of business, with all his stuff. He couldn't stop them or nothing. He was standing there doing an interview. They was going in and out, running in and out with stuff from out of his business. So politicians, once again, do watch that type of stuff. And to ever need change, the black community more than likely will never get it, because see, the looters and these rioters that get mad that tear up stuff, and protesters that get mad and tear up stuff, the very people they want change from will never give it to them. Because they'll say, well, look at how they treat their own kind. Their own kind has established themselves with a business, and they went ahead and burned down and stole stuff out of the business of their own kind. So it shows that they don't have no respect for their own kind. So why should we even give them any type of change, despite them needing change? See what I'm saying? Some people get it and some people don't, right? Some people feel, well, you just talk against your own kind. No, I have a building mindset pertaining to what needs to be what needs to take place, as in what needs not be destroyed, because we're living amongst enough devastation as things need to be built more than it is being torn down. Does that or does that make sense? As in, I'm tired of seeing. That's one of the number one reasons of why I left the hood to begin with. Too much destruction, as in my own neighbors was being killed, shot and killed. Or I'm standing there, like on a one occurrence, we was in the car sitting there, and it was a high-speed police chase, and the person jumped out the car as the car was driving quickly towards us. Nobody was in the car. Remember, he jumped out. He jumped out of the car. I'm thinking, well, where are we at? It looked like something in South Central, in an environment where I was, grew up at, the hood environment. It looked like South Central because the Bloods took over the environment, as in you got the Crips and Bloods fighting against each other. I would come out at night, you got the ambulance with people on the stretcher. You got, every time I look at some drive-by going on, not only all that type of stuff, that becomes a headache in itself. And then you say, well, Black Lives Matter, we need things to change. And yet I was always dealing with that, walking in the center of a drive-by. And if I would have got shot and killed, nobody, Black Lives Matter and all the rest wouldn't be screaming for me. because blacks is killed all the time, and even in drive-bys, and even when they was getting shot and killed all the time in my hood, Black Lives Matter, I never seen them. People being pulled out on stretchers because they got shot during some blood and Crip war going on, and I never seen Black Lives Matter as they need to get it together. Every time something happen, I'm going to get on this camera and say what I say about Black Lives Matter, because it shows they're not all who they say that they are. How many babies are killed with black skin, and these Black Lives Matter protesters, rioters, and their little looters ain't showing up screaming, representing? It shows that they're only about percent, as in representing a percentage, right? Probably about, more likely, Black Lives Matter represent maybe about 2%. Not even that much. The calculation on that, Black Lives Matter, because to see that they only represent, to know poor people die from even being poor and not having medical, and knowing poor people die from hunger. And even in Africa, you got Black Lives Matter, where they go there or whatever. You see what I'm saying? If Black Lives Matter, if all Black Lives Matter, that Black Lives Matter organization movement would even go as far to Africa to help save dying babies of black, brown skin African babies that's dying. Shows you they only represent maybe 1% of black people, because they only represent people, as I said before, killed by police, and they don't represent anybody else black. It's black dying babies. It's black people that are living in homeless shelters that could be catered to by the Black Lives Matter movement. These black homeless people that walk up and down the street, and nowhere is Black Lives Matter catering and ranting and screaming and burning down stuff for homeless people that are black homeless, walking up and down the street. They only represent one. You better know that they're in fact a elite group that represent only people killed by police. They don't represent, and that's where the racism start to show of Black Lives Matter. To say that these black people are being killed by white police officers shows that the Black Lives Matter movement only represent those killed by police and their white police. That shows once again their Black Lives Matter is indeed a racist group, because they're not ever showing up. If I get killed, you get killed, and you're black, Black Lives Matter is not going to show up. If you step foot out in front of a semi truck and a semi driver, whatever, kill you, Black Lives Matter is not going to represent you, not even in the courtroom. They're not going to be anywhere to be found, right? Their focus is on the police officers and the fact that the police officer's skin color is white. White. They don't focus on anything else. Better pay attention and keep your eyes open. Because if somebody kill your grandmother and grandfather, trust and believe Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter should have showed up for that guy that killed that old black man on Facebook Live. It don't matter what race. Black Lives Matter should be representing anybody black that's killed by another human, whether they're white, black, Latino, Asian, or whatever else. Black Lives Matter should be on their game representing anybody that life get taken by anybody. You see what I'm saying? That old man that was on Facebook Live carrying the cans, and he was like 70, 80 years old, right? And the one black guy was mad because his girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, whoever, didn't want nothing to do with him. That man took the life of that old black man walking down the street. They didn't even know each other. The man bragged on camera that he was going to kill that old black man and did it on Facebook Live for everybody to see. Shot him and killed him right in front of everybody. Black Lives Matter should have been the first organization screaming for that old black man, because remember, he was black, but more than anything, he was old, elderly, and somebody's father. He was a father of 2 or 3 different women. But more than everything, it was shameful in itself for that old black man to lose his life on Facebook Live, where everybody could see all across the world. Even CNN showed that. That's shameful in itself, as in they should have been screaming and, yes, protesting, even if the man that killed himself after, The man indeed killed himself after he killed that elderly man, right? Because nobody wanted him, which is why he killed himself. His woman or whoever, ex-woman, didn't want him no more. But Black Lives Matter, people don't have to be living and breathing just for you to chant and scream. Even Kobe Bryant plane crash, you don't have to be alive. That old man, him dying like that, and the man that killed him dying like that, still, you still should be screaming and chanting, still letting people know he died in front of millions and billions of people on a Facebook Live. Him being the elderly, let's represent him because he was a black elder of ours. Let's scream and chant for that sort of thing, to represent him, to give even his name some voice, because they're a Black Lives Matter organization. That's what they're supposed to do. And yet the show that they didn't do is a show that they didn't even care. So we're on investigationdiscovery.com. The ID logo stands in the far left corner. Live now, the Injustice Files at the end of a rope. Yeah, because see, a lot of black people fall for that sort of thing. They really sit and watch Black Lives Matter and say, yeah, they're fighting for us because of what happened to George Floyd or what happened to such and such. Drop dead right now, or allow somebody in your family to drop dead. They ain't going to be there for you. They're just not going to be there for you. Black Lives Matter will never be there for any of the majority of the black community. Because I'm wondering what little black child might need a heart transplant, need any type of anything, and yet can't get it because of a system, and yet Black Lives Matter is not screaming for them. That's to say even they will die, right? It was a little boy, he came here, had a facial, he had needed some facial surgery, he died, right? He had a deformity, right? It was blocking his breathing and all the rest. He died on the surgical table, right? And Black Lives Matter didn't scream for him. His life could be still here. It shows that you care, and not only that, it shows that you value the fact that they were human to begin with. I'm able to peep into anything and see it for what it is, as in I call out what needs to be called out. So new episodes, to gain access to this is to click right here. The padlock is padlocked down. Provide who you're subscribed to. You would in fact gain access to that sort of thing. Unlock episodes. To receive an audio visual preview is to click the play button right here. As in, don't make everything just about race. If you say that you are pertaining to, I can understand blacks are being killed, right? But it's just as many black people that's getting killed by other black people. And all you hear is, well, you know, such and such died. Did you hear such and such died? Such and such got shot and killed. And that's it. But then it's never no screaming, no chanting. I have an issue with stuff like that. Shows no value. And many of them people that be asking, did you hear such and such died? Them be the main people that don't even be at the person's funeral when they die. Recommended for you. Shouts out to Lieutenant Joe Kenda as well as Paula. I have a right to say that sort of thing because I'm brown skinned and I know all type of people that have been killed. A brown skin. Nobody screaming, chanting for them and burning down and destroying stuff. So don't lie. Don't sit and lie and say, well, Black Lives Matter if it really doesn't, knowing all type of people is dying and all type of babies is dying. These children is even being murdered by their own parents, black. And yet you're saying Black Lives Matter, and yet you're not representing them. You're not even found even in the courtroom screaming and chanting and all, burning down stuff. Why not burn down some courtrooms over even black folks killing black folks, as in grown adult men and women killing? Or even when it comes to rapes, I'm able to think even outthink Black Lives Matter. It shows that even they can't think or something, because I know it's all type of black women that's getting raped, or even black men that have been raped. Black Lives Matter is not screaming for them, and yet they have been raped. Remember, they're rape victims. And yet where's Black Lives Matter screaming for those sort of people that's being raped? As in, you got people that go to parties, had been date drug raped. Black Lives Matter is not all that you think that they are, because there's so many problems in the black community. If Black Lives Matter was really about some, they would in fact indeed kill the issues in the black community and not just be focusing on what police officers did. Because remember, police officers, once they go to jail and go home or go wherever else, these white police officers, that's outside of the hood. Once it's over and done. Now it's outside of the hood. But once everybody black goes home, it's still all type of problems in the black community that's still unresolved. As if Black Lives Matter think that they're more powerful than anything out here, then they need to resolve all the black community's problems. Because they act like they want to be leaders, so they in fact should take it in their own hands and resolve all black problems in the black community. As in, maybe Black Lives Matter should be resolving all of the black community problems. Does that make sense, dear viewers? Black Lives Matter should be responsible for, yes, removing all the problems in the black community. As in on a daily or a weekly basis, as in them meeting up to resolve all the issues in the black community. If they're not doing that, that's to say that all black lives do not matter. So I think that's all to be said for now. May you enjoy your day, and I will in fact enjoy mine, and I'm gone.